More than 250 million barrels of oil have been pulled from beneath a remote stretch of Australian desert. Thousands of wells have been drilled, hundreds of oil and gas fields have been discovered, billions of dollars have flowed out of one of the most isolated regions on the continent. For more than 60 years, this single basin has helped fuel Australian homes, industries and cities. Yet despite its enormous impact on a nation's energy security, most Australians have never heard of it. Hidden beneath the deserts of South Australia and Queensland lies the Cooper Basin, Australia's most successful onshore petroleum province. When Australians think about oil, they usually think about offshore platforms in Bass Strait or giant energy projects off Western Australia. Few realise that one of the country's most important petroleum discoveries was made hundreds of kilometres from the nearest coastline, buried beneath some of the harshest terrain on Earth. The story began in 1963. That year, the Geological discovery confirmed what geologists had only suspected. Beneath the desert lay a working petroleum system capable of generating and trapping enormous quantities of hydrocarbons. It was a breakthrough that would permanently change Australia's energy industry. At first, the excitement centred on natural gas. But 7 years later, another discovery would reveal something even more significant. In 1970, the Tirrawara field confirmed commercial oil. Suddenly, the Cooper Basin transformed from a promising gas province into a major oil province as well. What followed was one of the most successful exploration campaigns in Australian history. Exploration companies spread across the basin searching for new structures hidden beneath the desert. Seismic surveys crisscrossed the landscape. Drilling rigs appeared in locations that previously had little more than dirt tracks leading into them. Every successful well suggested there might be more oil waiting below, and there was. Field after field was discovered, then more again. Today, the broader Cooper-Eromanga Petroleum Province contains well over 100 oil accumulations and numerous producing oil fields. More than 3,000 wells have been drilled throughout the region. Oil production has exceeded 250 million barrels from South Australian portions of the basin alone, while the wider petroleum province has generated enormous quantities of gas, condensate and associated hydrocarbons. The numbers are staggering. Entire towns have depended on the basin's production. Massive pipeline networks have been built to transport its resources across Australia. Processing facilities worth billions of dollars have been constructed in what was once regarded as an empty desert. For decades, hydrocarbons flowing from the Cooper Basin have helped power Adelaide, Sydney, Brisbane and countless communities in between. Yet perhaps the most remarkable thing about the Cooper Basin is how few people know it exists. Unlike the giant oil provinces of the Middle East or North America, the Cooper Basin rarely makes headlines. It quietly produces year after year, hidden beneath a landscape that gives almost no indication of what lies below. If you were standing in the middle of the basin today, you would see endless horizons stretching into the distance. Red sand, sparse vegetation, dry creek beds. Temperatures capable of reaching extremes that challenge both people and machinery. It looks like the last place on Earth where vast quantities of oil should exist. Which raises an obvious question. How did one of Australia's most important petroleum provinces end up beneath a desert? The answer begins more than 300 million years ago. Long before the deserts, long before Australia, long before humans. At the time, the continent was part of the southern supercontinent Gondwana. The landscape looked nothing like modern Australia. Instead of arid plains and spinifex, vast river systems crossed broad lowlands. Forests covered large areas of the continent. Swamps accumulated thick layers of vegetation, and water was abundant. Over millions of years, these ancient environments began creating the foundations of the Cooper Basin. Rivers deposited enormous quantities of sand into low-lying depressions. Floodplains accumulated mud. Organic rich swamps trapped vast amounts of plant material. Layer after layer built up as the basin slowly subsided beneath its own weight. At first, these sediments were simply mud, sand and decaying vegetation, but geology works on timescales that are difficult to comprehend. As millions of years passed, more sediment arrived. Older layers were buried deeper and deeper underground. Pressure increased, temperatures rose. The organic material trapped within the basin began to change. Slowly, the ancient plant matter transformed into kerogen. Then, with increasing heat, the kerogen began generating hydrocarbons. Oil and gas were born. This process continued for tens of millions of years. Deep beneath the surface, the basin was quietly creating one of Australia's most important petroleum systems. But generating hydrocarbons is only part of the story. Countless sedimentary basins around the world generate oil and gas. Most never become major petroleum provinces. For a basin to succeed, everything must happen in exactly the right order. Source rocks must generate hydrocarbons. Reservoir rocks must exist to store them. Seals must prevent them from escaping. Structural traps must form before the hydrocarbons migrate away. and the entire system must survive later geological events that could destroy or leak the accumulations. The Cooper Basin achieved all of these requirements. It developed excellent source rocks, it formed highly porous sandstone reservoirs, it preserved thick sealing units. It created structural traps capable of concentrating hydrocarbons into recoverable accumulations. And perhaps most importantly, it avoided the catastrophic geological events that destroy many petroleum systems. The result was extraordinary. Over millions of years, hydrocarbons migrated through the subsurface before becoming trapped within hundreds of structures scattered throughout the basin. By the time humans arrived, a vast petroleum province had already been waiting underground for hundreds of millions of years. The remarkable thing is that nobody knew it was there. There were no giant oil seeps marking the surface, no obvious clues, no dramatic geological features hinting at the wealth hidden below. The basin remained invisible. Then 20th century exploration changed everything. Early seismic surveys began revealing structures buried beneath the desert. Geologists started recognizing the basin's potential. Drilling programs confirmed hydrocarbons, and one successful discovery led to another. The more companies explored, the larger the petroleum province became. One of the most famous discoveries arrived in 1981 with the Jackson oil field. Jackson became Australia's largest onshore oil field and demonstrated that major accumulations could still be found despite years of previous exploration. The discovery reinforced a lesson that would become increasingly important throughout the basin's history. The Cooper Basin was far from fully understood. That lesson continues today. Many petroleum provinces experience a rapid burst of discoveries before gradually declining. The obvious targets are drilled fast. Exploration slows, production falls. The Cooper Basin refused to follow that pattern. Decades after the first discoveries, companies continued finding new oil and gas fields. Improved seismic imaging revealed structures that earlier generations of geologists had missed. Better geological models improved exploration success rates. Advances in drilling technology allowed increasingly difficult targets to be tested. The basin kept producing surprises. Then it entered an entirely new phase. For most of its history, exploration focused on conventional reservoirs where hydrocarbons had migrated and accumulated naturally. But eventually attention shifted toward the rocks that generated the hydrocarbons in the first place. Could the source rocks themselves become reservoirs? New drilling techniques suggested they could. Horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing opened the possibility of producing hydrocarbons directly from low permeability formations that had previously been considered uneconomic. Formations that had been known for decades suddenly became exploration targets once again. The basin was reinventing itself. What had once been viewed as a mature petroleum province now contained a new generation of opportunities. The geology had not changed. The ancient swamps remained the source of the hydrocarbons. The same rocks were still present beneath the desert. Only the technology had evolved. Today, the Cooper Basin stands as both a conventional and unconventional petroleum province. It remains one of the most important energy-producing regions in Australia, continuing a legacy that began with discoveries made more than 60 years ago. And perhaps that is what makes the basin so remarkable. The story is not simply about oil. It's a story about geological timing, exploration, persistence and adaptation. An ancient swamp became a petroleum system. A hidden petroleum system became an oil province. An oil province became a cornerstone of Australia's energy industry. And even now, after thousands of wells and decades of production, the story is still being written. Because beneath one of the harshest deserts on Earth lies a basin that quietly became one of Australia's greatest geological success stories. I hope you found this as interesting as I did, and as always, thanks for watching.
Before I end this video, I'd like to give a big shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you so much to everyone that helps to support this channel.